So, a little bit, our attendance is a little bit light this morning. I hope that doesn't have anything to do with our talking about our take-home examination. I doubt that it is. Um, but before we do talk about the take-home examination, why don't we go ahead and settle in for some meditation? Um, Please settle into a comfortable meditation posture. And when you're ready, please go ahead and transition into meditation on the inner body. Anywhere that you observe a sensation within your inner body, you can know that there is consciousness at that place. One of the great benefits of meditation on the inner body is the experience, attaining an experience of the interconnectedness or non-duality of your body and your consciousness. To support your meditation, you may find it beneficial to bring to mind the image of a mountain. The mountain is balanced, grounded, and stable. The mountain has consciousness, and as such, you can know that all it does, day after day, year after year, is observe silently. Snow may fall on the mountain, accumulate, and then disappear. A nearby river may rise and then recede. A small sapling may grow into a giant tree, become uprooted, and then fall to the ground. The mountain simply observes silently. No praise, no blame, no labeling, no expectation. Whether this meditation continues for a few more moments or a few more years, please continue to be the silent observer of sensations within your own body mountain. Now, very gently, very, very gently, please allow your consciousness to become less absorbed as you begin to arise from meditation. We dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation and Dharma talk to world peace. May all beings without exception be completely free from all forms of emotional and physical suffering. May all beings without exception be happy, peaceful, contented, and free. And may we, as individual practitioners, make the greatest contribution to world peace that we can by deepening and strengthening our own hearts of patient acceptance, compassion, and wisdom. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to a newcomer to our Friday morning class, Paul, a friend from our nonviolent communication gatherings here at Lotus Center. Welcome, Paul. So we are continuing in our discussion of the six perfections. We have just finished our examination and contemplation of the perfection of effort. And we're going to back all the way up to the perfection of patience and kind of a couple of homework take-home examinations that we played with. Hopefully we had some fun with. And I'm gonna go back and sort of like revisit sort of the context for the examination, and just so we all remember sort of what we've been contemplating and what was asked. But before I do provide that refresher, I just wanted to say that in this discussion, there's the potential for us to get into some kind of fine details of what happens when we have an experience and how we relate to that experience. It might get a little bit granular. It might seem a little bit heady. But please know that this is a really, really important investigation that we're going to undertake. It's not sort of like mental busyness or mental amusement. It has real value to this, and I hope that comes clear in our discussion. So, to go all the way back to the beginning, I shared with you a line that I use when sometimes when I lead a meditation on patient acceptance. And that line is, when you encounter a situation that you find undesirable, you have two choices. You can resist or you can accept. Resisting what is will perpetuate your suffering. Accepting what is will free you from your suffering. And our first take-home examination question was, is that true? Do we have a choice when we encounter a situation that we find undesirable? Do we have the choice to resist or accept? It's kind of like asking, do we have a choice in what we feel when we encounter any situation, whether we find it desirable, undesirable, or neutral? Do we really have a choice? My answer to our question is no, I don't think we have a choice, because as my teacher says, as Geshe Kelsang Gyatso says, the fully ripened effect of karma is feelings. When karma ripens, let me state this differently. When the causes and conditions are assembled, the karmic effect of a particular action that took place or a particular cause that was created previously, when the causes and conditions are assembled, that effect cannot occur, can't not occur. It can't not occur. It has to occur. When we plant a seed, a corn seed, for example, and there are sufficient amount of nutrients in the soil, sufficient amount of sunlight, moisture, weeds and other obstacles are removed, that corn seed can't not sprout. So if the fully ripened effect of karma is feelings, when the causes and conditions are assembled, we can't not experience a particular feeling. So my answer to the question is no, we don't have a choice between resisting or accepting, because the fully ripened effect of karma is feelings. The second follow-up take-home examination question: are resistance and acceptance feelings? It's a two-part question. One, is resistance a feeling? Is acceptance a feeling? If the answer is no, what are they? What are resistance and acceptance? So I would invite you guys, if you want to be brave and offer your thoughts on this, please feel free to unmute yourself and share your perspective on this question.
I'll jump in. I was
Go
thinking,
for it, Tina. Thank you.
thanks. I was thinking that aversion or resistance was a feeling. I mean, yeah, a feeling, but that acceptance could also be a feeling, but then it's a being. Like it's two things. Like maybe it starts out as a feeling and then it becomes just something that is there.
Like acceptance is almost a state of being rather than a feeling.
Well, it might start as a feeling, like you might, like at the beginning, if you run into something that you're rejecting or that is not good, you can kind of feel acceptance, like kind of even if you're not thinking it.
Yep.
And then maybe hopefully it'll change to become a state that is natural.
Yeah, you're definitely heading in the right direction for sure.
Thank you.
Similar to how I see it. Anybody else want to take a shot at it and kind of share what you think? If so, unmute yourself. Okay. All right. I'll give you my perspective on this.
Roberta, I know you have something to say.
Right. Class is over. I have no idea what the answer is. Class is over. No. So when we encounter a situation that we find undesirable, let's even back up with that. When we encounter a phenomenon, There's a real expression, a real term for this in the teachings on training the mind. It's called contact. It's called contact. We can't experience any phenomenon, a situation, a person, an inanimate object. We can't experience that phenomenon without making contact. So when we encounter a situation that we find undesirable, okay, find undesirable, kind of code for aversion. We are averse to it. To my way of thinking, aversion, whether aversion comes in the form of anger or resentment or frustration or irritation, all different forms of aversion, that's a feeling, to my way of thinking, which is, I think, Tina, kind of what you were pointing to. What happens next is, whether we find that situation undesirable, do we resist or do we accept? That is an action. That resisting or accepting is a mental action. Remember, there are three types of actions of body, speech, and mind. Resistance or acceptance, in my view, is a mental action. Okay. So, and in this case, I think with regard to resistance, aversion, experiencing aversion, that mental action, it's almost an involuntary action, right? It's sort of like it just like comes up like a flash of lightning. It's so quick, we almost don't have a choice, yet it is an action. It is an action. So what we need, and then when we experience aversion, then we experience suffering. We experience we experience aversion, the feeling of aversion. We engage in the mental action of resistance, maybe it's acceptance, maybe it's aversion, but to the extent that it's aversion, then we suffer. And the really bad news is that because it's an action, we're planting yet another seed in the karmic wheel. Do you see this? Karma, actions and effects. We encounter a situation, we find it undesirable, i.e., experience aversion. We engage in the mental action of resistance that plants a seed, which, when the causes and conditions are right, are going to ripen in the form of an experience, in this case, at some point, more suffering. That's why they refer to it as the karmic wheel. Karma is a wheel. So what the task before us, you guys, through our training in meditation in particular, and training the mind in general, is for us to program ourselves, reprogram ourselves, recondition ourselves such that we have a different mental action when we encounter a situation for which we have aversion, right? Encounter the situation, have a feeling, in this case, for purposes of this discussion, the feeling of aversion, engage in an action. Almost for a lot of us, it's sometimes the action of resistance. We need to stop the cycle, reprogram ourselves such that the mental action is different. What mental action? What's an alternative that we could have? I'm going to offer three. One is surrender. Instead of resist, what about surrender? I mean, acceptance is the ideal. Hopefully we can get to a point where wholeheartedly accepting whatever arises spontaneously and effortlessly, that's the ideal outcome. To the extent that we need an intermediate step before we can get to a place of instantaneous, unconditional acceptance, how about surrendering? surrendering to the fact that you cannot control the world around you. You can't control external situations. You can't control other people's behavior. You can't control how other people think. Surrendering, to my way of thinking, is a kind of a fast track toward acceptance and kind of an intermediate step. Okay. Even more, an even more optimal action of mind when we encounter a situation that we find undesirable and haven't reached the point where we have perfect acceptance. Simply observe. We encounter a situation that we find undesirable. We experience aversion. Maybe our mental action, instead of resistance, is to simply observe, like the mountain with consciousness. No judgment, no labeling, no comparing, no expectation, no praise, no blame, nothing. Just observe. Like we meditate on, like the inner body meditation. That's what we're doing with this training. It's one of the outcomes of this training. The third, I think, and this is subtle. It may take a while for us to really be able to understand and embrace this. Encounter a situation that we find undesirable. Instead of resisting, maybe we just rest in awareness. Just rest in awareness. No action at all. Not even observing. Observing is an action, right? What if we were to get to a place where instead of resisting, instead of surrendering, even more subtle and profound than observing, what if we just rest in awareness? Rest in awareness, as in non-conceptual awareness. No action whatsoever. And that's a profound one. And it is the Mahamudra. That's the Mahamudra of being, really, of patient acceptance, just resting in non-conceptual awareness, taking no action whatsoever, not even observing, just resting in the awareness of consciousness, completely devoid of conceptual thought. We may be at that point where we can put that into practice. It might take a while. If we're not at that point, let's try the other ones, the other alternatives to resistance. Surrendering, or simply observing, just observing without judgment. All the teachings say that, all the teachings on training the mind, whether it's Zen, Theravadan, Tibetan traditions, John Kabat-Zinn teaching mindfulness practice, they all arrive at the same place. Simply observe. And that's the seed that's planted. Observing with equanimity, that seed will eventually ripen in the karmic cycle in the form of a positive experience in the future, or a desirable/favorable experience. So that's my answer to the take-home examination, our second take-home examination. Resistance and acceptance are not feelings, they're actions of mind. So there it is. Thanks, you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for
Jeff,
contemplating this.
thank you for breaking down the steps of acceptance. It's really helpful, to observe, observation, surrender, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Good. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Have a
Thank
good
you,
day, you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.